This is a Human Collective podcast. This is episode 4.
We succeeded in extending the human sight far beyond the horizon. It's not even human.
Hello, humans. This is the Human Collective podcast with me, Ross Taylor. For 30 minutes each episode, I'll be chatting to my friends in arguably, but most definitely, the weirdest industry on planet Earth, TV and film. Okay, this week I was joined by my friend and filmmaker, Jamie McBrien. Jamie was recently working on long-time BBC Studios series Wanted Down Under, and then COVID happened. So since then, basically he's been keeping his head screwed on, working on looking after his mind and his body, and eagerly anticipating the world getting back to the new normal in a couple of weeks, whatever that is. It was great to catch up with Jamie. He's a really hard worker who has actually found a passion for strong characters and positive stories, and I think I'd be right in saying that we could use a few of those right now. We talked about his documentary Church, which he made himself, and the interesting story within that. And I also want to say, guys, I'll be including the link to all the posts to do with this podcast to this documentary. You need to support him. Give it a watch. It's a fantastic wee doc. It's a great little story. And it's just very light. It's just very uplifting and positive. So yeah, digest some of that right now. Get a bit of positivity in your life and give it a watch. But yes, don't worry, guys. For all you who reached out after the last episode, I didn't actually have a stroke. It was just the internet. Enjoy. No, video recording. Oh fuck. Jamie, how's it going, man? Thank you so much for coming on. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is good stuff.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Now, Jamie, I think I sort of start every podcast by just kind of working out how lockdown has sort of been for you. You were working in BBC Studios before this whole thing sort of went down. Isn't that right?
That's right, man. Yeah, we're working on Wanted Down Under. It's kind of like a sort of travel property type show. And so we've been working on that for a long, long time, doing all the filming right across the UK, setting up all the episodes. And just as we were getting ready to send everybody out to Australia and New Zealand, lockdown hit. So we're kind of in this sort of weird state of hiatus, like at the minute. So it's been a bit strange, but you know, hopefully things are getting back up and running soon enough. So we'll get in and finish it hopefully someday.
And what is the situation with you and like furloughing and things like that? Did you get access to that scheme? I know there was a whole sort of thing with BBC Studios giving it out, but some people still weren't getting that. Did you get sorted out in the end?
Fortunately, yes, I got it, but I mean it was a complicated process, you know, just because of the way my contract was. Like I was coming up to a natural break anyway, and I was coming back in, so it took us all a while to figure out what was going to happen, because obviously this never happened before. So I think even BBC we don't really know what's going on. But yeah, thankfully I've been fortunate, you know. I don't know if everyone has had the same luck as me, which is tragic really, you know, but hopefully everyone gets sorted out eventually.
Absolutely, man. And so has there been talk about when you might be starting production again, or are they kind of keeping in communication with you about that?
They've been great about that, actually. Yeah, I've been talking to people recently, but I mean, it's one of those things, like everyone's still just kind of figuring it out, and talking about some other productions that would be up and running and what the filming of that would look like, and possibility of like remote filming and stuff. But I mean, it's good just to hear that people are thinking about it. So it might happen soon enough, and I know I just can't wait to get back to work in a weird way, like, you know.
I know, and it is kind of weird because, you know, it's not going to look like how we've how it's been done before. Like little things like getting into that crew van. Going from site to site if you're on location, or being in those small rooms like you often are. Sometimes you end up in the tiniest spaces, or even big spaces. It's like everything's. I mean, it's gonna look totally different. How do you think it looks from now on, whenever you go back and everything's sort of normal, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be really, really interesting. Like, I would have no idea, like, the predictions on how it would all work. But one thing I'll say, like, I've watched a lot of sort of, I don't know, remotely filmed documentaries and things. Like, Vice have made some really, really interesting documentaries that are all sort of filmed interview setups like we're doing now. They're all Zoom and archive stuff. And it's not great for us, filming on set types, like, but I think there's creative ways about it. And, what's that phrase? Innovation is the necessity of, people can find ways of being creative and thinking about different ways of making new things out of this, so trying to find like the positives and good things that come out of it, like.
I mean, as well, like, what I think, it's kind of not too bad for factual TV, because at the end of the day, if you have a great contributor, that can be the difference between having something that is completely watchable in this day and age, and you can film it properly with all the COVID guidelines. If you have a cracking contributor, that's going to make all the difference when it comes to the filming process for you. And certainly some of the best things that I've watched that have been adapted to the COVID era have been ones that have the best contributors and things, like even the Tiger King were able to do, a whole roundup with all the different characters via Zoom call, and a show that I absolutely love, which is definitely a guilty pleasure, but is complete gold standard to me, is Below Deck. And they're able to do reunion shows completely via Zoom call. I imagine it's probably a bit of a headache for the producer, like when you have 14 people coming into a broadcast, by a Zoom call. But at the end of the day, the best characters, it doesn't matter whether you're literally just with with a producer with a camera in the room with a contributor, or they're doing a Zoom call. Nowadays, the better the contributors, especially in the COVID era, in factual TV, it might be a benefit to us anyway.
Absolutely, man. No, totally. I mean, there's an element of sort of leveling the playing field as well. Like, for so long it's been sort of restricted to people in London and things, but I think, like, there's no reason why you can't apply for jobs anywhere now if things are online. I mean, everyone has the same opportunities, and like you said, like that Tiger King episode, anyone could have been involved in the making and production of that. So it's a very weird time, and it's kind of it's thrown everyone for a loop, but it could be exciting as well, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the kind of the whole thing about productions is, when you start a production and when you finish a production, there is always going to be a list of problems that need to be solved. That's just the way it's going to be. You always are going to get that. That's the way anything that I go into, every production is just a list of problems that you need to solve. Puzzles more to describe it better. Problems would imply that I'm completely losing my mind the entire time. Puzzles will say like a game of Scrabble or a game of chess, and once you solve these puzzles from start to finish, then you have your show. And at the end of the day, I feel that the COVID situation, it's just we just have to adapt, and we're used to adapting, especially in TV with small budgets. We all have to adapt all the time, and I don't think it's going to be a massive problem for the likes of factual TV. I just think for high budget stuff, you're going to find your issues there, because they're used to having so many people all hands on deck all the time. So I feel a bit relieved in a way that we can still put out the right content, and it shouldn't affect us too much, I don't think, if we're smart enough about it. But like you say, yeah, it is crazy that there's jobs that are people are talking about jobs from London and everything, and you can apply for that, and it shouldn't affect it too much with you being here, but you can do so much from your laptop at home anyway. My only concern would be that as everyone's out of work at the same time, everyone wants to find work at the same time, and whether it's remote or not, I find it it's just going to be really tough and really 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 competitive. If it was ever competitive before, it's probably going to be super competitive now.
No, absolutely. I mean, I see on LinkedIn and things, series producers with like pages long of credits being like willing to do AP work. So yeah, no, definitely there was a bit of a gold rush. Like, everyone's getting back to the jobs, but yeah, it'll be strange. I mean, it's like that's factual TV, like you say. You adapt, and there's different things you need to figure out, and there's little challenges that you overcome. But I'm thinking of like those sort of high-end drama productions and all the films and stuff that, I mean, wouldn't know how they would work around that. You can't film a drama over Zoom, like, so I think factual would be the place where the jobs will be. There's just a lot of people out of work at the minute that are also looking for those jobs, but see what happens, I suppose. Yeah,
absolutely. We can only wait and see. When do you expect that you'll be back, business as usual, working in BBC? Do you have like a date you reckon that you'll be back?
Not a date as much. I'm just kind of hoping that there'll be some kind of like online researcher work in the next month or two. I don't know why, but because the end date of furlough was always 31st of July. In my mind, I was always thinking like, oh, it'll be over by then, but it's not looking like it'll be quite as soon as that. But it's just, I mean, at the minute, the only thing I can really do is just sort of take it day by day, and was lucky to find some like online part-time data checking work for this random company that my mum works for. So it's been great just to have that to sort of tide me over. But yeah, in terms of TV work, I suppose hopefully it'll be in the next few weeks, like.
Fingers crossed, man. You strike me, and since like the first time we met, which I think I need to backtrack to. The first time I met you, we joked about this before, but it was at like a networking event, and you were picking my brain about getting into TV and things like that, because you just finished your degree, you got a first in film and stuff, and you were chatting away to me, and like, I couldn't believe that you weren't already working in TV, but I thought it was class that you were, interested in, how to pursue that and move into the next step in your career, and we headed off, had a great chat, had a few pints, and then all of a sudden, a year later, we met at another networking event, and then you were telling me about how you'd got your first job on TV and everything was going really well, and I thought that was really cool.
Just coming up and annoying people at the pub, being like, oh, I want to work on TV.
Yeah, it's important though, man. It's really important, and I like to think that that kind of enthusiasm was one of the things that people sort of latched onto. At the end of the day, I always think that the most important thing is that you can get on with that person, and if you hit it off with people and you're interested and respect, how their position and things, and at the same time you also are super interested and like a bit like a sponge, you just want to sort of get in there whatever way is possible. But that's the best way. And so anyway, fast forward, you managed to bash your way in through the door, but I sort of got the sense that wouldn't have mattered if you were going to work in TV or not. I always felt like you're always going to be making films, and that seems to be the case with you, because I just watched your documentary Church, and I really enjoyed it, man. I thought it was shot beautifully, and a lovely little story, really easy to watch, and great little contributors as well. Tell me about making Church and your thoughts on the process of that.
Oh, well, I mean, thanks so much for watching it, man. I mean, it's just really nice when people watch anything that you make in this age of people constantly looking for your attention. Like, no, it was a great little thing to make. Like, I remember going to Film Devour nights in the Black Box. I'm sure you've been to them, and just being obsessed with the idea of making these little short films, like, and the story kind of just fell into my lap, to be honest. I'm good friends with the people that run the night, and they sort of know that I had done a lot of like nightclub photography and sort of video content for nights that we had been to in the past and things. So they kind of reached out to me, like hoping that I could do some kind of like social media content for them, and told me a bit about the night. And I was just like, this is just so bizarre, so fascinating. The idea of making this underground sort of religious themed techno nights or dance music night, and calling it church, and pitching the idea of a congregation, and the people who are playing the music are like leading everybody in sort of worship of like the soulful side of dance music, which I just couldn't get enough of, and started thinking about it more and more, and the parallels of like this idea of a weekly ritual. People dress up and they all congregate together, and it's like a social thing, and so yeah, like I got carried away, and I was just like, guys, I want to make a documentary about this, and they're really up for it. And Barra Doherty and Neve Cunningham, the people that are behind Church, are brilliant. They're so on board and so helpful. So yeah, got a couple of my smarter, more talented friends on board, and sort of pitched them the idea, and they all liked it, and were happy to help out, and yeah, put it all together, and I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Class, man. I think there's so many important parts about that doc now. I feel myself kind of going inwards and looking to music more than ever now, in podcasts and audio of all forms now, because every time you switch the TV on, it's just, there's negative news. There's so much like heavy stories out now on social media. There's so much pain and suffering that's being brought into the sort of commercial mainstream when it comes to you flick through your newsfeed, and it's people fighting, it's protests, it's everything, and I think it's nice to not only watch documentaries like that are just really light and nice stories where people are just trying to make a difference and they're following their passions, but at the same time, like, that connection between people and music. I kept thinking, I saw an old archive clip of back whenever, like, teenage kicks was a massive thing during the Troubles in Belfast, and the punk scene, people were going out and they were just like, they were out there because they wanted to just forget about the things that were going on, and that sort of cult feeling where people just were all together in this they were united in this sort of passion for music and escapism, I think, in a lot of ways. So I feel like there's a lot of connections between that and now, and I think that's why it's important to talk about now, because the idea of it being like church is a religion, and now I think people turn to things that give them kind of comfort and relief, and music certainly is that. I mean, now when I'm chilling, when I'm out for a run, or when I'm playing Scrabble with my girlfriend, or just relaxing, music is on all the time, man, because sometimes it's good to reset and to recalibrate and to kind of revitalize your view in the world.
Absolutely. No, man, I couldn't agree more. And the idea of like having those sorts of wholesome content that you can absorb in this troublesome time is I sort of shied away from it for a long time, because I sort of thought making documentaries was inherently sort of very serious, and were meant to take on big topics and things. But I just sort of leaned into the idea of just making good stories about nice people doing cool things, almost like, and I mean, that's the type of thing that I enjoy watching, so why not make that and hope other people like watching it too,
Class. And that is a perfect transition for some of my shiny segments that were such a success last week, Jimmy. There's no way you're going to escape them, because I'm dying to hear exactly what they are. And it's just so Fergus has a perfect transition into it. Guys, get ready, because this is Jamie's top 3 lockdown classics. That's where the cool screen comes up. And so, Jamie, this segment is really important to me, because I have been leeching off every angle of every Netflix, every Amazon Prime, every Hulu, every Heyu, everything. So if you could please give me your top 3 lockdown classics, starting with number 3.
Right. Yeah. This is a tough it's a tough list. Before I start, I just want to give an honorary shout out to, it's not TV or film, but the game The Last of Us Part 2 is phenomenal. It's amazing. And I'm not really a big gamer, but I love the first game, and I've been playing it pretty much flat out for the past week or something, so just needed to give a shout out to that. If anybody has played it or is thinking about playing it, look into it, because it's very, very dark and serious, but in a weird way, it's kind of like a perfect remedy, because it's this post-apocalyptic survival game, and this makes everything we're going through at the minute seem a lot easier, But yeah, like I've been rewatching Community. It's my favorite TV show. I don't know if you're into that, Ross, are you?
Do you know what people always say to me to watch Community? So thankfully, I haven't really seen it, so I'll certainly check that out. It's good.
Dude, there you are. Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. I think it's like my second time binge watching it, and yeah, like I don't usually rewatch TV shows very much, but make special circumstances, Community's a brilliant show. It's on Netflix. Number two, I suppose, I watched a great film called Captain Fantastic, which is another one that's been in my my list or on whatever on Netflix, and it's brilliant as well. Viggo Mortensen plays this father who's like off the grid and living very isolationist lifestyle and bringing up six of his kids and homeschooling them, and they're all like complete geniuses, and it's just really, really interesting story about how people get involved and disagree with him about how he's raising his kids. And yeah, I won't say too much more, but it's a brilliant story. Very, very nice and wholesome. Recommend you check it out. But yeah, number one, continuing the theme of wholesome content in this podcast, Won't You Be My Neighbor is a great documentary on Netflix about Mr. Rogers. Do you know anything about him?
No.
I didn't really know too much about him. I'd seen memes and stuff about him, but he's this sort of American TV show host, and he used to have this like kids show where Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and there would just be the most wonderful lessons about trust and growing up, and you would talk to kids in a very mature and grown up way about things like death and divorce and things. And so yeah, it's a documentary about his life and all the things he went through and people criticizing him and his anxieties and nervousness, which is just, it's a really, really great film. And yeah, it was very nice. It was welling up at a few points during it, so yeah, definitely check that out.
Epic, man. There's three great suggestions, and I'll certainly check them out. Fantastic, mate. I want to add a bonus one actually, because I just watched this like 2 days ago, and it is it's Eurovision, the story of Fire Saga, right? And I swear
I've seen of it.
Have you seen it?
I've seen it advertised. I haven't got around to it yet,
mate. Okay, so this is Rachel. I think it's Rachel McAdam and Will Ferrell are the two leads, and it is like a classic Will Ferrell like Anchorman story arc. It's like it's perfectly done, but man, it is absolutely hilarious, and I'd totally recommend for anyone who wants to laugh, who wants to see get their Will Ferrell fix. It is genuinely like as good as in my mind, it's as good as Anchorman was. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. It's as good as Blades of Glory. Totally give it a watch. It's man, it's so good. I'll tell you why it's so good, right? Will Ferrell does this brilliant thing where he just zeroes in on an area that you go, oh my god, that is hilarious. And it's always been hilarious, but nobody's done anything about it, right? Like Anchorman was so funny to me because like 70s news team in America is like, of course it's hilarious, the mustaches, the fashion, the like misogyny that's just like rampant there, like to just unpack all that, it's absolutely hilarious. So Eurovision has been something that's always been funny, like it's always been effortlessly funny. We all watch it not because we're like serious singing fans, it's because how ridiculous it is. It's like this high budget, all like singing, all dancing show that is like just so full on, and so like that just lent so well to Will Ferrell and his style of humor. What do you say?
It makes so much sense. Like you almost could have predicted a Will Ferrell parody movie about Eurovision, and it would have made sense. But I know exactly what you mean. Like Eurovision is one of the weirdest, cheesiest things ever, but it just makes me feel so good about being a human being. We all just get together, and it's like the Olympics, but for singing and dancing in the most ridiculous outfit and production value ever. So yeah, you got me convinced. I'm going to check out Eurovision tonight.
And absolutely, there's quite a few of the songs in it I just can't get out of my head. There's just a few songs in it but it's absolutely brilliant. So right, transitioning smoothly into the next segment. This is one that I really enjoyed last week. This is Weird TV Tales. Okay, so in Weird TV Tales, I I say at the start of every single podcast, it is my belief that TV and film is the weirdest industry that you could possibly work in. Okay, so I would like you to tell me a weird TV tale. Jamie, what's your weird TV tale?
Yeah, oh man. I mean, there's so many just weird moments. You sort of think about it, it's like, I cannot believe that happened. Like, it's so surreal, almost like, when you try and explain it to people and it just kind of comes off kind of naturally. Like, I was driving Jurgen Klinsmann. If anyone's a big football fan, Jurgen Klinsmann is like a legend, legendary German football player and coach. Driving him about one day and was working on Celebs and Solitary and with Eddie Hall, who's like the world's strongest man once upon a time, and picking up weights for him and carrying him about after him and all this sort of stuff. But the weirdest moment was one of like my first ever TV jobs. I was down in Derry filming this Irish language country music concert series hosted by Daniel O'Donnell. And so we were all in the hotel after one of the nights and pinting away, and we were watching Eurovision. It all ties back. So we're watching Eurovision. We're getting ready for Ireland to come on, and we're all really excited and had a few drinks and, getting a bit leery or whatever. And all of a sudden, they just turn off all the TVs in the lobby because one of the lobby cover bands is just starting up or something, and we're all pretty annoyed. Word gets out that Daniel O'Donnell was watching it up in his suite and is going to invite some selected few people up. And I was lucky enough to be one of the few. So went upstairs. This is after a few months of working in TV, and me and 5 or 6 other people watched Eurovision in Daniel O'Donnell's hotel suite, and I was 2 meters from him. And yeah, it was just one of the most surreal experiences of my life. Got a picture and everything with him, So yeah, working in TV is weird and wonderful at times.
Yeah, so such an innocent story, but I'm not gonna lie, I thought there was gonna be a sinister ending to it as well. I'm glad there wasn't.
The sweetest man ever. He is as wonderful as you would ever have thought he could be. He's brilliant.
That's nice. Oh, that's good. Okay. Man, that's class. That's a super weird story. That's exactly what I wanted. Right. Smoothly transitioning on to the very final segment, and that is Advice of the Day with Jimmy. So, Jimmy, I want people who listen to this podcast to come away with some really good tangible advice that they can take away and they can use if they want to get into TV, or if they want to even anything that could in these weird sort of times to help them sort of get through the odd thing here and there. Have you any resources, anything that'll benefit our listeners? Please tell me.
Wow, yeah, I mean, it's kind of strange, giving advice or whatever. I'm not sure if I'm in a position to be sort of acting like a mentor or anything, but just from my experience, I guess, like an example was how I met you. You're someone that's helped out a lot and has provided connections in TV and stuff. Going up to a bar and tapping you on the shoulder and being like, "Hello, I'm Jamie. I want to work in TV." So I suppose just being very open to experiences and being passionate and enthusiastic about trying to get jobs, and always making sure that you're putting your best foot forward and being enthusiastic. I suppose working in TV, I mean, it's such a sociable industry. You spend so much time with people, and like you said earlier, you want to be around people that makes it fun to work with. So I suppose just trying your best to have that sort of attitude will, I think it's helped me, but that's just the way I want to try and do it anyway, no matter what. Yeah.
Amazing, man. And if I could piggyback on that at all, I think some people sometimes think, okay, I've got to go and tap the exec on the shoulder and start talking to him. But I think what the important part is when someone says, okay, I want to work with that guy, we were more or less I was only one position above, and because he hadn't come into the industry, and I was still finding my feet after just getting a job. At the end of the day, in my opinion, I think sometimes people appreciate it when you come up to the person who you would actually work with. Do you know what I mean? The execs will never work with you unless you're a fucking producer or an exec yourself. So, making the moves to speak to people who actually will work with you is sometimes the smarter move.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the person that you're going to be in the trenches with whenever you're finding all of these challenges that you're going through, like, and trying to figure out how you're going to get through the day. So it's good to have that sort of rapport with people. But it's very easy to make those connections, because I think TV and film is such a weird industry that it attracts certain types of people who are very hardworking, but very, affable and like to get on with people and creative. So I think it's a great industry to work in, and I can't wait until there is an industry to work in sometime soon, hopefully,
Yeah, me both, man. That's all we got time for, Jamie. But I just want to say thank you for coming on to the podcast today. And I can't wait to work with you sometime in the future. And peace, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, man. It's been great fun. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Human Collective podcast. Remember, like and subscribe our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify for all future podcasts. Thank you.